Welcome to Integrative Medicine with Dr. Leland Stillman, the podcast where we explore the best of East and West, old and new, conventional and unconventional, in search of answers to medicine's toughest cases and most difficult problems. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Diagnostics and therapeutics discussed on this podcast may or may not be right for you. So talk to a qualified practitioner before taking action based on what you learn here. If you'd like to become a patient at my practice, go to stillmanmd.com to schedule a complimentary discovery call. Thank you for listening and welcome to today's episode. Hello everyone, Dr. Stillman here. I am joined today by Linda Parelli. Linda, thank you for joining me.
I am excited to be here.
Excellent. I like to start by asking everyone, and today we're going to talk about a story of hope, story of healing with a specific product, which we actually won't name for various reasons. But Linda has an amazing story of hope, story of healing. She's going to share that today. So Linda, I'd like to start by asking everyone who they are and where they're from.
Well, I am Linda Parelli. I'm the founder of Happy Horse, Happy Life. I have a strong background for 30 years of developing a whole new movement in the horse industry called natural horsemanship. And I was the co-founder in that, in Parelli Natural Horsemanship. And then in the last 5 years, I founded my own company because I felt that what was needed was an evolution in the information that we were providing for people. And basically 30 years without much evolution is not that good. You know, you've got to be at the forefront of things. And I had the freedom to do that. And so I'm leading with more cutting edge information in the behavior-based psychology, behavior-based training using psychology with horses.
That is fascinating. I'm sure that would be a whole nother podcast episode.
Or three.
Or three. All right. So where were you when light therapy entered your life?
Well, I got an email. It just was out of the blue from Kathleen Horstmeyer, who I've known for many years as a student of natural horsemanship in the programs that I was teaching at the time. And she reached out to me and said, hey, I'm just, letting you know about this product that I know you're into natural healing and natural therapy. And she said, this uses energy and light and et cetera, et cetera. So I wrote back to her and I said, I think I've heard of something. It's like a patch. And she goes, oh, you know about those? And I said, well, briefly, because my farrier, who shoes horses, would use them occasionally, but he was very quiet about it. And one day, my friend had a lot of pain in her arm, like a tendon was sore or something like that. And he said, oh, let me put these patches on. And she said within seconds, her arm felt so much better, she almost didn't have any pain. And then she said it was gone, and she never thought about it again. And we never asked him anything. It was just like, I don't know, some random thing. Anyway, so I remembered that when Kathleen reached out to me, and she said, well, how about I send you some patches to play with? Just, try them. And I bought a manual that she recommended that tells you basically, patch by the numbers. If you've got this problem, you put patches in these particular places. So I thought, well, that sounds easy. But you know what? There's a lot here that has to do with pain relief. And, I don't like taking any kinds of drugs or painkillers or anything like that. And so that appealed to me. But then I thought, but I don't have any pain, I look after myself pretty well. I'm pretty fit. But somebody will have pain, and I became a pain stalker because this is what happened. So I had my coach from Spain was coming over to teach for a week. And I know that he has a very damaged leg from a horse accident, 40 years ago. And he sometimes can be in a lot of pain. And I thought, good, I'm going to have these little patches and I can't wait for him to be in pain, and then I'm going to stick the patches on and see what happens. Well, I was sitting there, and as luck would have it, I actually injured my shoulder the day before. And I'm so used to not being in pain, I wasn't thinking about it. And while I was sitting watching my coach, my shoulder really started talking to me, and it's throbbing and hurting. And I'm thinking, oh, geez, I can't believe I did this to my shoulder. And then I went, I've got those pain patches. So I got up and I went to my truck and I opened, because I had it all there to put on my coach. And I looked it up, where I should put what for my shoulder pain. And I just did the general pain points. And by the time I stuck the patches on and walked 50 feet back to where I was sitting, my pain was gone. And I couldn't lift my arm like this. I mean, I would have to pick my arm up. And all of a sudden, literally 2 minutes later, I could move my arm and I had no pain. And normally,
How did you feel in that moment?
I was blown away. I thought if these things help, maybe, I've used acupressure and photonic therapy before and had some pain relief on various things with that, but I had never experienced something so rapid and so dramatic ever. And I love all the natural healing methodologies.
You've tried
Anyway,
one or two things over the years?
Yeah. And, not necessarily always on me, but certainly on my friends and horses and, people like that.
And horses
So
don't
I'm
lie.
sitting there. They do not. So I'm sitting there and I cannot believe I have no pain. So I'm in a group of women and all, like 60s and 70s. And I thought, I'm going to tell them what just happened and see if they have any pain. And maybe I could try it on them. So, of course, I told them, I said, look at this. I can move my arm. It was so frozen in pain. Does anybody have any pain? I'd love to experiment with it. And they're like, oh, yes, my neck, my back, my knee, my hip, we were in prime territory. And so I just looked at the book and we just did the general pain patches, on your feet and on the back of your neck. And every single one of them, except one who was a man, but that has nothing to do with it. Every single one of them could not believe the change.
You say
in
it has
their
nothing to do with
condition.
it, but I have to make a quick point. Was this
Okay.
man the husband of one of the women present?
No, he was not.
Okay. My
He worked
suspicion
there.
was he was not getting results to spite his wife.
I've seen that happen too.
It's a real thing. Okay.
No, he worked there and his wife was not present. So,
Exonerated.
yes. So he had hurt himself moving something heavy. And he said the pain in his back, and he's tough, this guy, the pain in his back was so severe he couldn't even sit down on the tractor seat because it was hurting so much. So I said, well, try this. And he came back about 20 minutes later and he said, I've probably had 10% change. I said, well, maybe we haven't done the right thing. Maybe it's something different. And as he explained it, it sounded more like nerve pain rather than muscle pain. And so I looked it up in the book and I said, here, let's try this one. He came back 5 minutes later and said, the pain's gone. And I gave him a few more patches and I said, just do it every 12 hours for the next few days till you run out of patches. And then if you need more, let me know. That was it. It was done. He didn't have any more pain. It was done. It was done.
How long had he had that pain for?
Probably 2 months.
Okay. Wow. Remarkable.
Yeah. I know. It's like, this is like one miracle after the other. So then now I'm carrying patches everywhere because I'm a pain stalker and I want to test this on all kinds of different pain. So if somebody would go, oh, my back really hurts. And I go, your back hurts? Would you like to experiment with something? And so then, I learned how to do it in different ways. And every time, some were a little bit more challenging than others, to get enough relief. Like everybody got some relief, but then some I just had to find different ways of doing it until we finally got it. But I think there's two really fantastic stories I want to tell because I've got lots of little ones with headaches and sinus pain and throat
just little
issues
things,
and
headaches, sinus pain, things that derail people's lives and ruin their days.
Yeah, like gone in 30 seconds, Anyway, so this particular one, again, we were watching my coach teaching, and this lady started saying to me, oh, I can't wait for my hip operation. I'm in so much pain. This last 6 months, I've just felt like an old woman, and I used to be, fit and walk around. And she said, now I can't hardly walk. I'm really slow. And above all, and to add to that, I can't turn my neck. She said, I can turn it one way, but I can't turn it the other way. And that's just happened in the last couple of weeks. So I went, let me get my patches and let's play with this. So I just did the general pain points again, nothing specific. And I gave her a minute and I said, has anything changed? And she went, I feel different. And then she went, I can move my neck. I haven't been able to turn my head. And then I said, how about that one? I think was about 2-3 weeks. But her hip pain has been years. And 6 months ago was when she decided she was going to have a hip replacement because it was just too severe. She still did have that, but this helped her, on the way. So then I said, how about your hip? She said, I don't know. Let me stand up and try it. She started to walk and she just looked at me literally like this. I have no pain, none. And she burst into tears. And I mean, the relief was incredible. It was incredible. So then another one, and this is really fun. I was visiting my parents in Sydney, Australia, and my dad is 96. He just turned 97. He's in really good shape, but he has had some breathing issues in the last years. But nobody told me he had COPD. I'm going to say that word, whatever, because I was shocked that nobody told me. It's like, why didn't anybody tell me that, he's got that big a problem? So we were sitting there at the table talking, and he was very quiet. And my dad's usually very talkative and animated. And I hadn't seen him, for a few years. And he was just very quiet and a little bit pale looking. And I said to my sister, it's like, is he okay? And she said, well, since his breathing issues have gotten worse, he's more quiet at the table and not as, animated as he usually is. So I went, let me try the patches. So I got this one particular patch that, is supposedly helpful for stem cell regeneration. And I put it on his neck. And Dr. Stillman, it wasn't even 30 seconds. The color in his face changed. And then I said to him, are you breathing better? And he went, I am. This was like not even a minute. And we sat there talking, he's like, what is this thing? So I started telling him a little bit about, like, I don't know anything, but I was just sharing stories. And then my mother, this is what's so cool about it, because you don't need to know anything. And you can help your friends and your family and people. Anyway, so.
You are having an awful lot of fun with this, aren't you?
I know. I'm telling you, it was so fun. So then my mother goes, well, he's only been sitting down. What about when he walks around? So she makes him march all over the house, my 96-year-old father. And she goes, are you okay? He goes, yes, I'm not out of breath. She goes, well, lift up something, because when you lift things, then you get, you huff and puff. So she's got him doing all the lifting up chairs. Then she says, and he's fine. Then she says, but when you take the trash out, you have to stop because you run out of breath. So she said, take the trash out. He comes back. He didn't have to stop. Now, this was January, and I understand that it takes about a month for every decade of life to really, get the full benefits of things. So he's been on this like 9 months now, 10 months. So he's just about there, and he's doing amazing. Amazing.
How did it feel when you got that kind of a result for your dad?
First of all, it was shocking because, quite honestly, I didn't know if it would work. And my dad's was a dentist, so he's, he knows a little bit about things.
And
so
he's skeptical and a bit hard-nosed.
Yes, he was skeptical. And in fact, even a few days later, because every morning I would tell him, do you want another patch? And I figured I was pushing him into it. So I thought, I'm going to see if he asks me for it. I hope my dad never watches this. He asked me for it, and he didn't. So for 2 days, he didn't ask me for patches, and I noticed him getting worse. I said, I really think you need to do this again. And he said, yeah, it was really great at first, and then I felt it wasn't working as well. I said, you've had this condition for how long? And in 1 minute, you get big changes. There's going to be a little bit of up and down, I expect.
Right.
Anyway, so he started wearing them again, and he hasn't quit since. He's walked up flights of stairs, up my sister's driveway, which is like that. Didn't have to stop. Extraordinary.
Wow.
So the feeling to be able to help, a friend, a family, is amazing. Just this like I said, I don't have to know anything. I just go, see this little thing? Stick it there.
I was just talking about this on another podcast I recorded just before we sat down. I was on a call with a woman who I've been taking care of for, I think it must be 2 years now. And I've tried everything. Everything I know. And she's one of the very few cases in the practice where I haven't had like a resounding victory. And she said to me today, she said, I think I'm about 70% better now. And this is like, we started her on our high dose vitamin D protocol. That was what moved the needle for her. And so to be able to get results like this with light therapy, if you told me this before I started using it, I would have absolutely thought you were nuts.
I know.
You feel the same way?
Oh, yeah. How can something work that quickly? It's extraordinary.
And you think to yourself, this has got to be some kind of fluke. But then it happens again and again and again and again. What I do find interesting is the people who don't respond feel like there's something wrong with them. And that is one of the interesting things. What's that?
That's interesting. I found the opposite. It's like, oh, see, it doesn't work. It's like, I haven't got them in the right spot yet.
Yes. That's so interesting that you say that. And I hear you. Whenever I've gotten on the phone or with somebody who's using this light therapy, I will go through a process that I've learned over the years of all the things I've got to ask about that will get in the way of the body healing, because it's about as close to a miracle as I've ever seen. But it is not like a magic wand. It still obeys the laws of physics. Everyone responds differently, and you can be doing enough things wrong that it will not get you the results that you would like. I will, however, also say that people are very funny, and we often have this experience. We'll see a patient, how are you doing? Oh, I'm about the same. Well, has anything gotten better? Well, I'm sleeping better through the night. Well, how much better? Well, I was waking up several times a night. Now I wake up only once. And my mood is better. Oh, how do you mean it's better? Well, I was about to decapitate my wife, and now I'm getting along with her quite fine. You're like, how do you think that those kinds of improvements are the same? People are very funny, which is one of the reasons why it's so fun to hear stories about horses, which you've got some of, which I think is a good logical transition. Let's stop talking about the humans who are unrealistic. Let's talk about the horses. They're happy for whatever they
Yes, because
get.
horses don't lie.
The horses don't lie.
Yeah.
And they don't complain either.
Yeah. I mean, no. Well, yes, they do.
They do?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's like they don't understand us. You're confusing me. You're pushing me. You're not giving me time to think. They communicate, let me tell you. Like a lot of people say to me, I wish my horse could talk. And I say, no, you don't. But in fact, your horse is talking to you. You just need to know its language.
I'm so glad you said that, because I do have to say that with patients, I don't think that people realize that 80% of what they're saying, they're not saying. They're saying it with their body. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've learned is that the most important thing I do is really try to get into understanding people's body language, because what I really need to know is often hidden in the body language. Yep. And I have a friend, he does most of his work by a phone. I don't know how he does it. He's missing 80% of the messages his patients are trying to send him. And on that note, I see so many people blundering around in life, not getting what they want out of it. And they're totally clueless about body language. I mean, it's like you could be telling them to be quiet and let them get a word in edgewise. It's like, unless you get a megaphone pointed in their ear, they won't get the message. And it's really remarkable, because it actually creates a lot of illness, because people don't feel heard. They don't feel seen. They don't feel loved. They don't feel understood. I'm sure you see that in the horse world, right? I'm sure the horses get physically ill when they are not.
Oh, yes.
Remarkable.
So emotions.
Remarkable.
Negative emotions are very expensive to the horse's health. It's incredible how many medications they're on because of stress. And people have no idea.
Have you heard the joke about how to make a small fortune in the horse business?
You start with a very large one.
You've heard it.
Of course. I've been around a long time.
Okay, so would you share some stories of horses with us and the light therapy?
Yes, funnily enough, I don't have a lot. Well, I mean, it's just really been more about pain, where a horse had an injury and it was limping and wanting to lay down.
And a name and a date and where and like, what does this horse do for work?
It was actually one of my horses, and he had an injury to his foot, and so it abscessed. Jazz. His name is Jazz. Yes. Okay. Hot Jazz. So he had an injury to his foot, and he was in a lot of pain because it abscessed. And, if we have pain in our feet, we can at least sit down or use a wheelchair or crutches or something. But horses can't. I mean, they live on their feet. I just thought, what can I do to help him? I said, why am I not using the patches? So I went and got them, and I put them on the back of his head. And within seconds, which I'm used to seeing now in people, he took a deep breath, relaxed, his heart rate went down. He was obviously in less pain, even though he still had the affliction. And he didn't lay down. He didn't lay down for another half hour. And he was getting ready to lay down when I did that. So I've had a few incidents like that, mainly just with some pain or discomfort. Usually don't do too much with stress, because what I do, working with the behavior of a horse, I reduce stress very quickly in how I relate to them. So I haven't had to do anything with that. But then another story I have is with my little dog. A couple of months ago, she started suddenly breathing very rapidly and was in trouble. And it turned out that she had a lung infection. And so I'm sitting in the vet office and had my patches with me, and she's really distressed and panting, like breathing really rapidly. And I don't know how long I'm going to be sitting there. So I put the patches on her, right and left. And within 30 seconds, her respiration went down, probably half as rapid as it was. She relaxed. She almost fell asleep. It was extraordinary. And then after she had to have antibiotics to get rid of the infection, of course. Thank goodness for that. But, you don't want to have to rely on them. And they're not necessarily going to make her feel more comfortable in her recovery. And so then I used the patches for pain. And then also Kathleen guided me with a couple of others that I put on as well. And she recovered remarkably fast, even to the point that the vet said, wow, she's gotten better really quickly. So, and I know that it was the light energy patches that shall remain nameless that did it.
I'll just mention it. The reason why we're not telling you what the product is exactly is that we would be making medical claims. and that would be somehow violating the law, even though we have a First Amendment that guarantees our right to free speech. Somehow I thought that First Amendment was very clear, but apparently not. Anyway, anything else you want to share with people, Linda? And if you're, I usually ask people who I'm interviewing, if people want to get in touch with you, ask you questions about things you said, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can message me through my website, Happy Horse, Happy Life. You can go to support at Happy Horse, Happy Life and mention this podcast, and then that will get to me. But I think the first thing that I'm going to say is try it and just experiment. I think that was the best thing Kathleen did for me. She just sent me patches and said, just play with them. Try them. And once you do one, I'm telling you, it gets crazy because all of a sudden, you just see people with problems everywhere. It's like, oh, I've got a terrible headache. It's like, come over here and I just put these patches on your temples and then one behind your ear. Is it gone? Yep. My niece-in-law is here right now, and 2 nights ago, she got really swollen glands and felt like she had stabbing pains in her throat and was not feeling very well. And so we looked up where to put the patches, put them on the next morning. Well, actually within 20 minutes, I think her glands had already started to go down. And by the next morning, she had no problem. It's really harnessing the body's ability to heal itself.
I love that you said
it's not
It
invasive.
reminds me of one of my favorite quotes from Hippocrates. He said, the natural healing force within us is the greatest force for getting well. Something like that.
As you were saying a little bit earlier, that there's some people that don't want to be healed. So they will resist that because there's power in being sick. They get attention by being infirm or needing people to help them. And so they're invested in that.
I have to tell you, it's really funny when you ask them what their illness is doing for them. Because if they feel safe, they will tell you. My frozen shoulder lets me not play pickleball with my cousin.
That's huge.
My bad ankle prevents me from taking walks with my so-and-so. Very interesting.
Very interesting.
What you hear from people.
But if you want to be well, we have the technology.
And if you want to feel terrible and age fast and not fast, stay away from this stuff.
Exactly. There you go. The reverse psychology ad.
Absolutely. This has been such a pleasure. It's so fun to meet you.
Well, thank you so much. And I love what you're doing, and I'm a big supporter of this whole movement for natural healing, and I'm glad to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.